Welcome to a new episode of This Is My Offer. I'm Cody Shive, and I'm the Global Partner Solutions Architect specializing in grocery, drug, and convenience retail for AWS. Today, we'll be discussing Capstone's Retail Store Stability offering, which provides the ability to monitor and manage both hardware and applications in large retail ecosystems. Our guest from Capstone is Joe Domer. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Cody, and thank you for inviting Capstone to this This Is My Offer series. We're really happy to be here.
Great to have you. So, Joe, tell me a bit about Capstone and the work that you do for retailers.
Sure. So Capstone started as a retail-focused software development and services company a little over a decade ago. The core of our business is really around software development and integration work, and that's really made us an ideal partner to build, extend, and support large systems like retail commerce platforms, which we do. The company was originally created because of a need for building and integrating strategic payment solutions and lower level device interfaces. And since then, we've kind of grown into a full service retail development, integration, and support company.
So why did Capstone decide to build and offer this service?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So as most people probably know, retail is a highly distributed and very heavily integrated ecosystem with hundreds or thousands of POS clients and as many peripherals interacting with many different integration points. So it's a unique operating environment. Retailers really didn't have, but really needed a way to turn this opaque view of their estate where you have no visibility into what problems are occurring, where they're occurring, and to what extent, into a transparent view of their estate where they can see where the issues are and they have a way to address them, to mitigate them, and resolve them remotely if possible. So as a result of this, we developed this solution and service, which effectively opens up the ceiling and allows you to look down into a store and at the devices within the store and the applications running to see, their functional status. As I said, there's many intersection points with POS payments, CRM, order management systems, pricing, and promotions. And, at any given moment, a retailer often has no idea what the functional status of those are from the perspective of the store.
Yeah, and I like that visual of sort of taking the roof off and sort of peering down into the location so you can see everything that's working. That really makes it, that drives it home for me. So, there are other solutions out there that are similar to Capstone's offering. What is different about your platform and service, and why would a retailer want to select this offering?
Yeah, so there are other products out there that do various levels, for instance, of log monitoring and things like that, which we also do. Our store stability offering is different in a few ways. So for one, we provide a white glove service to manage the underlying tool, which is our Capstone EMS tool, and to help the retailer monitor their estate. And also in developing this offering, and in the work that we do, we saw that other providers really didn't meet, retail has some unique hardware specific events, and these solutions were not necessarily tailored for a retail environment. So we feel that our solution is, and also unique to the store stability offering. We operate a lot out on the edge, so we are looking at and providing data to the platform from the perspective of the devices and the store, which is often very different than what you might see looking down from above and not able to see really what the view looks like from the ground. So we feel like that's a unique element of our offering.
Well, in addition to that, I think when we were talking earlier, you told me about the notion that you can get just enough information, and if you need more, you can actually go and pull the entire log from one of the store systems. That sounds like a differentiator to me.
Yeah, it is. And thanks for mentioning that. Yes, we intentionally built an agent-based system so that we can do most of the processing out on the edge, and we only transmit enough data to provide for, root cause analysis or other data that's needed. But we're not sending entire logs or processing full logs on the platform in order to provide this service.
So what kinds of problems does this offering address for retail? Do you have some examples, something you could sort of talk about that retailers who are listening to this or watching this can really clamp onto?
Yeah, so I think the central problem that we are addressing is the lack of a clear line of sight into the overall stability and reliability, and in some cases, compliance of a large retail environment. I talked earlier about how it's very distributed, especially large national or global brands that have stores all over the globe. And you wind up with some real and problematic blind spots as it relates to hardware applications and external services. So there's really no way at any given moment to know whether there are issues and to handle them in a timely manner. So the problem that we're solving for is to provide that visibility to the health of all these potential points of failure and gathering enough data, but not too much, about the systems to make support and remediation a lot easier. The detection of some of these issues that you encounter in retail can be fairly complex, where you're not just looking for a single line in a log file or something like that. It could be issues that, several things have to happen in a certain sequence, and then that creates a problem. So we feel that we are solving that with this solution. And then when these problems or events are detected, we can take immediate action to remediate the issue.
And that makes a lot of sense. So when we think about the value proposition that you have for this offering, how does the retail store stability offering actually solve those problems?
So the first thing is to provide the tools to be able to give the needed visibility at the device and store level into the health of the various assets, services, and applications that are being monitored. So that's really step one in the solution, is having the technology to be able to watch and understand and detect when certain events are occurring that are going to be problematic to a retail environment. That includes operating on the edge, like I mentioned before, and then gathering the data, aggregating the data and events real time at the source, and then pushing them up to the platform where alerts can be generated and data can be generated, reporting and graphs and all that kind of stuff. So, the solution is really around allowing a retailer to see the operational status of all their devices and applications that are being monitored from the perspective of the store and the device.
And this is all designed running on AWS?
Yes, we designed the solution around AWS technology, which really allows the whole solution to scale as needed for different retail environments.
Fantastic. So we've talked a little bit about the solution, how it works. What have the results been?
Yeah, so the results have been have really been very interesting, and have really kind of proven the point in us, developing this offering. I'll give a couple of examples. We do the things that you would expect, where you can detect certain failures and certain endpoints not being reachable and certain applications crashing and things like that. One example is we have one client who has a subscription service that they sell in the store, where then their products are shipped to their customers on a monthly basis. So we, as part of this offering, we're monitoring their application that was submitting the orders and then also the endpoints. And we detected that there were errors that were not being handled, and so orders were being dropped. And that part's fine. But what this solution also provided was a mechanism to automatically gather enough data about that order to reconstitute that order and then resubmit it. So at the end of the day, it wound up saving them not only the hundreds of thousands or more in sales that they would have lost, and the the frustration from customers, but also a lot of man hours in trying to resubmit these orders. Another thing, I mentioned payment earlier. We do a lot of work in payment, and we'll typically see with this solution, payment issues being decreased by north of 75%, in many cases, where we start to not only detect where the issues are, but then when fixes are put out by the various vendors, we can also track to see if the original issue was actually resolved. A couple of other real quick ones. We have clients where we are tracking store sales, again, from the store perspective, which then get pushed up, and they can compare to sales that are being reported on back-end systems without having to wait for the entire day's processing to occur, so they can find lost or missing transactions that may have occurred. And then we have a number of clients using our version control module, which allows clients to do updates to stores, but also have assurance that every component on every register in every store has the right software on it and the right configuration updates and things. So those are a few examples of how it's being used and successfully out in the field.
And those are some good examples. The customer experience piece, I think sometimes folks forget about, because when something doesn't work, like we're talking about the subscriptions, if I signed up for a subscription and didn't get it, I'm going to blame the retailer. And the fact that you were able to sense those and then essentially reconstitute, rebuild those transactions, that's fantastic. That's sort of fix in place, if you will.
Right.
While letting people know that there's a software problem occurring in the field all at the same time. I think that's a tremendous win. And version control, I know I've seen that in many retailers where they don't really know what version is running where, even down to the firmware level. So there are many benefits, sort of hidden benefits, just behind that one statement that lots of folks, now many of the retailers listening to this get it, but some folks forget about. So when we start to think about this, we start talking with retailers. I've worked with retailers for many years, and one of the things they're very concerned about is whether your system might be able to reach into their point of sale and actually do something that they don't want done. So can the system that you've constructed actually reach into the point of sale? And if so, tell me how that might work. And for the folks out there who are thinking about networking, are there specific ports that you deal with for ingress, egress, both? And is there anything that you can show us about this offering and how that might work?
Sure. So regarding reaching into the store, and here's a system diagram. I won't go through all, everything that's on here, but we use a lot of AWS services that you can see here. The agent, the Outpost agent here is a Capstone Outpost agent. That's our agent that actually is collecting data. And that agent is really unidirectional. So it calls into the platform from the stores. I don't know the exact ports that are being used, but there's only probably 2 ports that have to be opened. And it pulls updates down. Even if you want to do something like, we have the concept of directives, which are basically automations that may do something like, rebuilding a transaction. So those get posted, and the agent checks for those and pulls them down. We do have cases where you can pull log files back, but those have security around them, and the whole system is also role-based. So there are a number of security measures, and only a very few opportunities where we're actually reaching from the platform down into the store. What I wanted to do here, if possible, is just show a couple of examples of kind of how the tool works. And it's a little bit more visual, and I'll just kind of talk through what's going on here, if that's okay.
Sounds great. Go ahead.
All right. So really, this tool is centered around the concept of having an enterprise-wide view, and then being able to collect data and drill down into potential issues that are happening. So here you can see one of our views, which is a retailer that is national in the U.S. So all the stores are plotted here, and then you can click on a particular issue here that you can see a couple of these are turned red, and then drill down into the store and gather information about the store. And in this case, you can see that there are a couple of network endpoints that are not reachable. So following up with that, we have other views like this, where this is also another enterprise-wide view that shows all the categories that this particular retailer is monitoring using this retail store stability solution. And they happen to have a self-checkout as part of their retail operation. So we are monitoring the self-checkout subsystem. And in this case, you can see that there are some issues with the self-checkout. And then as you drill down, you can see what the issues actually are. In this case, they are that there are some cash handlers that need to be replenished. So it provides that detail about that. Now, in this case, this would probably be accompanied by either an email alert, an SMS alert, or a mobile app that would send notifications to in-store employees to say you need to go fill the cash handler. We talked a little bit about hardware inventory. So we track that at whatever interval the retailer wants to, but this provides some compliance requirements for them. For instance, for payment terminals, we're capturing the make, model, serial number. We would know when what terminal or what POS register it's assigned to. So we would know if somebody moved from one lane to another, or if there was a payment terminal that was replaced, and also shows firmware levels. Another example I mentioned earlier about software version control. Again, we look at the actual binary contents of files to make sure they match a template. So we would know, for instance, here in this one store, there's one executable that's missing. We would also know if there were DLLs, configuration files, or executables that were not missing, but they were just the wrong versions based on the binary contents of those files. We also look at application data. So for crashes with POS, again, we give the ability to look at trends so you can see when these things are happening. And application crashes can come from a number of different things. And here we're capturing data about where it's happening and then pulling in more data about that particular event. So this would be one of the events. And this is an example of where we are pulling back only enough data that you need rather than an entire log file. So this is a configurable amount of data where we're pulling in, several lines before, several lines after, including a stack trace. That gets pushed up so that when the support team is trying to resolve the issue, or the vendor's trying to resolve the issue, they have this data without having to pull back gigabytes of log files. We also do API calls from the edge. So again, we are always trying to look at it from the store's perspective. And in this case, we are checking to see when they may be failing over to a cellular network. And the stores often don't realize that, nor do the retailers, that they failed over to a backup network. System reboots, similar thing. We capture data about that. And then not only track that the event occurred, but also which processors are using the most CPU and memory. Excuse me.
Well, that looks like a pretty full suite. I think if I had a retail set of retail locations, 100, 200, 500 locations, I could easily use this tool to monitor what's going on in the field. So thank you, Joe, for that. And thank you for joining us for this episode of This Is My Offer. Joe, if viewers want to learn more about your solution, what should they do?
So there's a link below that will point you to where this offer is on the AWS Marketplace. So you should be able to find it there. And it also provides more information to reach out to us to get information on the offering.